Hello, this is Sara Sach with Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video is step 3 for our sprinkled donut pillow crochet along. Now before we get started, I wanted to show you something. I had a question as somebody asked me if they just used one strand of worsted weight number 4, would that work? And let me show you what I did yesterday. I made this little pillow. It's stitched using one strand of worsted weight red heart. This is just a mint color, and this is that gingerbread color that I love. I stitched the pattern exactly the same. Every row, every round, every stitch is exactly the same. I joined it the same. I stuffed it, a little less stuffing because, of course, the pillow only ends up to be about 10 inches, and it really is a lot of fun to make. And I made this in about 2 hours. So that answers that question, if you can use just one strand of worsted weight number 4 yarn. Now I did change and use an eye hook, which the eye I think is the 5.5 millimeter. So if you're only going to use one strand of worsted weight to make a smaller pillow, use your eye hook and do everything exactly the same. Thought I'd show that to you today. All right, now what we're going to be doing in this video is we have already made the front and the back of our big pillow. And I'm going to show you how to sew the edges, and then we're going to stuff it. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit also about some stuffing issues. Now I did get 2 or 3 questions yesterday about what do I do if the stitches are too big and the stuffing is coming through. So there's a couple of options that you can do. You can purchase a pre-made round or even square, because you can just push the edges in, pillow form that's already made. And what that is it's the same kind of stuffing, only it has like a cotton cover, and so then the stuffing won't slip through. Another thing that you can do is you can make one. Take your pillow, set it down, draw around it, and sew it onto, or draw around it on a piece of fabric, and sew that fabric in a circle and stuff that, and sew that shut, and then stuff that into your pillow. That's another option, and I've done that sometimes too. But if you don't want to do that, if you're getting big gapy holes between your stitches, you can go down a hook size or 2 and make your stitches just a little bit smaller, and that'll keep it from the stuffing gaping through. Because the truth is, you want your stuffing to stay inside so people can love on it and throw it and have a good time with that silly pillow. You don't want to be worrying about the stuffing coming out. So there's a couple of options for you. A pre-made pillow form, or you can make a pillow form. And the truth is, if you've got an old t-shirt, that makes the best pillow form because it's stretchy and doesn't have to be the same color. You can just be within that same color region, like beige, brown. I mean, anything, as long as it doesn't show through, who cares, right? Just take one of your old t-shirts, cut 2 circles the size of your pillow, hand sew the edges, stuff that baby with your stuffing, close it, and then stuff it in your pillow. They make great because they're stretchy. But any fabric would work. So there's 2 options, and then again, like I said, you can go down a hook size or 2, and that will help with closing up those gaps in those holes. Before we get started, I want to remind you that if you've missed out on the introductory and the first and second step, you can find those in the link provided underneath this video on that blog. And the easiest way to do that is just click that link. It'll take you to my blog, and then all the videos will be right on that blog. Or you can just click through my playlist on my YouTube channel, and you can find them that way as well. Alrighty, let's get busy. So we've completed the top and the bottom of our donut, and now we're going to put them together. And what we're going to do is, this is the bottom of our donut, and we're going to put the outside facing down. This is the inside. And then we're going to take the top of our donut, and we're going to put the underneath side against the underneath side of the bottom and slip this right inside like this. And then we're going to stitch slip stitches all the way around, except leaving an opening for us to stuff with. And this is the outside, this is the outside, and it's going to stay the outside. All right, so we're going to go ahead and grab those yarns. We're still using 2 strands. If you made this with 2 strands, use 2 strands. If you're using a chunky and you used 1 strand, use 1 strand. If you're making that little pillow with the 1 strand of worsted weight, you just use 1 strand. And the way we're going to do this, let's yarn over here. We're going to take our hook. We're going to go through those 2 loops on the top of the bottom edge, the 2 loops on the top edge. Take your yarn, pull it through, yarn over, and go through that loop. That's our first slip stitch, and we'll weave this in later. And we're going to be working all the way around our pillow. All right, so we're going to go in those 2 loops, pull the loop through, then take that loop and put it through the loop on our hook. And we'll do this all the way around. Now, one thing to remember is if you stitch your slip stitches here too tight, it's going to pucker in. So make sure that you're not stitching too tightly and that it lays nicely. And also, we don't want it laying too loose. So just gently as you go, try to match your gauge with the gauge of the edge that we've already done. And see how that kind of forms a nice little edge? That's that little edge I was talking about right there. Looks like where the donut was fried on one side, then flipped over and fried on the back, always leaves that little line. So we're going to just work our way around the whole edge of the donut, sewing both edges together using simple slip stitches. Now, I wanted to say, someone asked me about why can't I just use a single crochet? You can, but this edge, your ridge, is going to be taller if you use a single crochet. And so I found, it's just my preference, that a slip stitch seems to work best. There we go, almost slipped off my hook. All right, now we're going to work these slip stitches all the way around, sewing our 2 pieces together, our front and back, all the way around, and we're going to leave ourselves a gap of about this much. I'm going to say about, 5 or 6 inches for stuffing. Once we get around here, we're going to go ahead and stuff our donut, and then we'll close it. So let's continue working around the edge of our donut, sewing the front and the back, or the top and the bottom actually, together. I've done my slip stitches all the way around, sewing my front or my top and my bottom together, and I've left myself this little opening. Now make sure where you stopped right here that you make a nice big loop for when you're stuffing, and this way, and snug that down, this way it will not come out when you're doing your stuffing. You don't want to start stuffing and your slip stitches come out. All right, so here's my opening, and I'm just going to start with stuffing big wads of my stuffing into my donut. And I use about 6 to 8 ounces, but if you want your donut to be a tighter stuffing, you certainly can. It's up to you. If it's just decorative and it's not really going to get much use, I wouldn't overstuff it. But if it's going to be played with a lot, or maybe slept on by your grandkids or your kiddos, stuff that baby. Alrighty, so here's my opening. I've got all my stuffing inside, and now it's time to close that opening. All right, I'm going to flip that over. Here's where I pulled that loop up, so I'm going to make sure I put my hook in there and then pull that loop back down. And that's just something that I learned to make that big loop. I can't tell you how many times I've made something. I stuff it and I lose about 10 stitches because I'm concentrating on getting that stuffing inside and not that stitch. All right, so let's go ahead and finish up those last remaining slip stitches to close up our donut. And we're doing exactly the same thing, going through the 2 loops and making slip stitches. Alrighty, so I'm back over here where I started. I went ahead and cut my yarn. I'm going to just tie that off. Snug those down, and I usually just go ahead and tie a nice tight knot 2 times. If you're worried about that coming undone, you can add a little dab of fray check or fabric glue. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and weave those ends in so they don't go anywhere. So I'm going to grab that piece of yarn, thread my needle, and just stitch that under, going through some stitches, making sure that yarn is not going anywhere, because I want my pillows to be able to be played with. Alrighty, cut that one. I'll grab this other one. And we'll do the same thing. We'll just weave that in through some of those stitches. This one's a little shorter. There we go. Give it a little pull and a little snip. All right, so now our donut is all stuffed, but we need to cinch the inside in right down here so that it looks like a donut. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about a 24-inch piece of yarn, and again, do what you did when you made your pillow, in that if you use 2 strands of worsted weight or 1 strand of chunky, use that same amount of yarn, the same weight of yarn I should say, for this. So we're going to thread that onto our needle. All right, we're going to turn our pillow over. We're going to go right in that center with our needle, and we're going to push it through to the center of the front. Now don't let it come all the way through. I always just sort of hang on to it. And then we're going to go back through, but I don't want you to go right in the center. I want you to go a little to the side of the center so that it grabs on to some of those stitches. And we're going to go right back through, flip it over, same thing, go to some of the side of the stitches a little bit, and we'll pull that through. Now what we're going to do at this point is we're going to tie a knot like this, and we're going to pull, and then we're going to make another knot. All right, don't tie off yet because I want to do this again. And I'm going to go just to the side of the center on the back, go back to the front, go to the side of the center, and I just kind of go right across that center like that. And we're going to do the same thing. And the reason I don't want you to go right up into the center is because sometimes it pulls right through that little hole. And then we're going to make 2 knots again. 1, and I want you to kind of pull snug on this one, okay? We want it to hold. All right, we're going to do it one more time. That's why you need a lot of yarn, because we're going back and forth. And just find another spot, like over here I haven't gone in this center circle. And this is how it gets the look of a donut. And I liked doing it this way without having to sew the hole in the center together, because I thought this was just a lot easier. And I really like how it turned out as far as how it looks. All right, so we made 2 more knots. I'm going to make 1 more. And then I'm going to clip my needle over there because we're going to need it. And that's how we get the center to cinch in like a donut. And if you want to make more stitches on this, you certainly can if you feel like you want it to hold in tighter. And so now it looks like a donut. A yummy chocolate donut. Now we have a couple of options for decoration. This particular donut, the yarn made it look like it had sprinkles, because this is that Deborah Norville Serenity Sprinkles, and I just love it. This donut, I just made a circle of 10 single crochets for both the eyes and the mouth, and then I just embroidered a little smile and the little eyelashes. And that's a really simple, fun fix. And you can see this yarn does have a little bit of a sprinkle to it. The camera doesn't pick it up very good, but in real life, it's just adorable. And then, of course, the sprinkle donut. There's the little one. And this is done just by using a variegated yarn. You can use any color of yarn for your sprinkles. And this is what I'm going to show you how to do. So here's our chocolate glazed donut. And this is the yarn that I'm going to use for my sprinkles. And I'm just going to cut a nice long piece. You probably have to cut several to fill, you know, it's up to you how many sprinkles you want to put. And I'm going to show you how I do it. So I thread my yarn onto my needle. And what I do, on the end of your yarn, I just make a little knot. That. And I come up from the bottom. Make sure I'm on my frosting color. Make sure that goes in and is held by the stuffing from going all the way through. And what I do is I just try to make the sprinkle stitches just about the size of one of the double crochets, and I go at an angle. And then I'll twist my needle back like this. That way this one can be at a different angle. And I'll just randomly work making different angles of sprinkles. And it's up to you, like I said, how many sprinkles, how close together you want them. And I just kind of work up and down the pillow like that. And it's just kind of random. When you get a box of sprinkles or a container of sprinkles and you throw them on something like a cupcake or donut, they land all different directions and all different colors. And it's really quite fun. You can see I'm just randomly making what they call straight stitches. And you don't want to pull these too tightly. You want them to stay put, but if you pull them too tight, they can pucker up and get lost within the stitches. And you can use a couple of different solid colors and go back and forth if you want to. You can use, like this, I like using the variegated because it just kind of changes colors for you. But, you know, it's green, yellow, pink. You can see that. And I like it. I think it's cool. All right, so I'm going to finish getting the sprinkles all over my donut. But you can see how fun that looks, doesn't it? Definitely needs a lot more sprinkles. And I really like this bright sprinkle color of yarn on this chocolate glazed donut. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, stitching all my sprinkles on my donut. So you can see I have completely covered my chocolate glazed donut in sprinkles. But I wanted to show you how you weave your yarn back in when you're done with that particular piece of yarn. Now I had to cut 2 or 3 pieces in order to cover all of my sprinkles. So when you get to the end and your not rope, your yarn is too short to make any more, let me put my needle back on here. What I do is I go in and I try to catch some of that stuffing between a stitch, and I sort of pull it up like this. And I'll pull it up a little bit snug, and I'll go ahead and make a couple of knots right on the end of that. So there's that little knot. I'm going to cut that string. And then I'm just going to take the end of my hook, not the crochet end because I don't want it to get caught, and just stuff that down into the yarn, into the stuffing between the yarn. And that's going to hold your sprinkles in place. So this is the Sprinkle Donut Pillow crochet along with lots of options. Different yarns make different donuts. Different weight yarns make different sizes. The possibilities of the color and style and size of donuts is endless.